action. No reportable action. I was thinking something else there. Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have some leaders from us? Oh, yes. Come forward, please. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Oh.
Can you hear me? Oh, okay. You guys can come right up here. Thank you very much for inviting us to lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. These are some fifth graders from Ophir Elementary School.
Hi. Hi, my name is Fiona McIntyre. Saying the Pledge of Allegiance helps form a connection to our country, the United States of America.
My name is Carly. We are a country with a diverse population. Saying the Pledge of Allegiance instills a sense of patriotism for all people. When we say the Pledge of Allegiance, we honor the flag and everything it represents.
We say the Pledge of Allegiance to start our day at school, to start important meetings or ceremonies, and we honor our flag at important ball games important events such as ball games. We would like to lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Salute and pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I think Mayor Pittman has something for you.
Who's with first here? I got Ryan. Thank you, sir, for bringing us tonight. And Carly. Carly, you did a great job. Thank you. And Fiona. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. We had a great beginning now. Adoption of agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Second.
And is our voting machine working tonight? All right.
Perfect. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, presentations of proclamations, none at this time. We want to go right to the public communication hearing of non-agenda items. Do we have any slips?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we do. We can begin with Steve Christensen and follow that with Bill Spear.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Steve Christensen. I did drop off a couple of letters to City Hall earlier. I know Mayor Pittman read it because he sent me a response. And his response claimed that what I wrote was not factual. Well, I did a lot of studying. I reviewed the videos of the meetings. He claimed he did not initiate the hiring of the CAL FIRE OFD consultant, and the video of March 2nd, 2021 shows he did. And he claimed that the newspaper article in June of that year proved that he did not. He said he voted against it. He voted against accepting the recommendation of the consultant. I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that. I didn't like his closing line. It said, "You should find a more reliable source of information as your current source is delusional. Have a good day." Thank you for listening.
Mr. Spear.
Our city council had a verse, well, actually a couple verses. and a prayer for you guys. And it's in Philippians 4, and it says, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things." Like in the King James, it says, meditate on these things. And I know we have to address tough stuff a lot, and you guys, a lot of the times there's issues and problems, and you're not hearing all the good stuff. But in the verse here, it says, meditate on these things. And even though we do have to address the things of life, we can put it into practice and meditate on the pro list. The pro list is so much bigger and better and more awesome than the negative list or the con list or the complainers. You're always going to have complainers. You're always going to have issues. There's always going to be problems. But if we put the word into practice and meditate on it, we can still have our joy and peace and make it through whatever issues or problems. So, Father God, I thank you for your word. Thank you for our leaders. And I pray this over them, that they will meditate on these things, the things that are good and pure and admirable and praiseworthy. And there's so much in our community. And I uplift all those things this evening. I speak blessings upon all of the public servants, upon their families, upon their businesses and their work, whatever it is that they put their hand to do, and all the people who serve in our city. Thank you for them. Thank you for our police and the fire and all the service groups. And I thank you for, again, our rescue mission and the work that you are doing there. The Hope Center, they never grow weary. They continue day after day after day to focus on the victory, focus on the positive, focus on what can we do, on the solution instead of the problem. We love you, we praise you, we give you all the glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right. Some more
And
slips?
we did have one more for
Okay.
Terry.
Terry.
I just come to invite you to the salmon dinner. It is this Friday. I still have few tickets. I don't have too many, and it's going to be amazing. The tribes are going to bless the salmon and the festival, and it's going to be the traditional dinner with salmon, tri-tip, and everything. And I know I don't like to talk because I have an accent. But please come over. It's going to be amazing. I have tickets. Some of you already said that wanted to buy some tickets, and I have them with me today, and I would love to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
That's all I have for
all
submitted
right.
cards.
Council announcements, reports? Any council? Go ahead. Mayor's.
So just to dovetail on what Terry was sharing, of course, the funds that are being raised by this year's dinner event goes to the Oroville Docent Association. As many of you know, we have 5 amazing museums, and it takes hundreds of volunteer hours. So we're so appreciative of our docents, and we need more. So if any of you are thinking about serving your community, it's a great way to do it. So the funds that are raised by that particular dinner go toward the supporting of our docent association, again, that we're so appreciative of. And it is a lovely venue. It's I think, an underutilized city asset. up there. That park is just so amazing up on the levee. The Centennial Plaza, it has a beautiful statuary, just a lovely setting for a dinner such as a salmon dinner. And then, of course, we have the Salmon Festival itself, which is happening on Saturday. We have a lot of amazing vendors and local bands lined up to entertain everyone. The hatchery will be open, giving tours. Our museums will also be opened as well. And so just an opportunity for everyone here locally to get in there and check out our local museums, meet a docent, maybe sign up. And then I also want to mention that the lot home was not going to be open this year because of the upgrade with the fence. However, I just heard today that, in fact, that they are going to open the lot home for Saturday. That's what I understand. So come on out Saturday. It's going to be a great day. The weather's going to be absolutely perfect. And enjoy the Salmon Festival and our beautiful downtown. Thank you.
Any other council members? I'll make a quick mention that we had the ribbon cutting for the Highway 70, I believe it was segment 3 down on the Honcut Bridge. Very well attended, and it's a nice, beautiful road to see 5 lanes, essentially going all the way to Marysville. I believe segment 4 is coming up soon. I'm not sure when the date. Maybe Caltrans will update us tonight. But it's really nice to see that roadway completed, and everybody that travels it is very much impressed with it. So good work on everybody's part. And it just takes a partnership with so many different agencies. We had the federal folks, the state folks, local government, county folks. So it was a very nice affair. We're looking forward to segment 4. Any administration reports?
I have a couple. First of all, I just want to let everyone know the state legislature recessed, I think it was last Thursday, and they introduced over 2,600 new bills during this cycle, which is pretty standard. 900 of those bills made it out of the respective houses. They're sitting on the governor's desk as we speak right now. So the governor has 30 days to respond to these bills, and there are a number of bills that we're watching closely. A lot of them having to do with issues addressing hoping to address the unhoused. The fentanyl issue is a hot topic, and also a lot of bills having to do with planning and building and local control. So there's a number of bills that staff are diligently watching, and as the next 30 days we'll report out if anything develops on that. And then one other thing I just wanted to inform everyone, the Charter Review Committee that was formed a couple months ago, we met for a 3rd time last week, so we're making good progress on that. And hopefully, I think we're going to have one more meeting, which will finish our at least first initial review on the charter. So progress is being made. Thank you. That's all I have. I'm not sure if other staff.
Yep.
I wanted to publicly announce, I know I sent you guys all a press release last week, that the city was awarded the $1.7 million to complete the funding for Mission Esperanza. So we're very excited. 2 weeks ago, I announced that we did not receive the funding, and then last week we found out that we did. So we are moving forward, meeting with the contractor this week to get everything in place and order the rest of the pallets. And we're still targeting a soft opening in January, at least for the first 30, the non-congregate beds and the first 30 pallet shelters.
Ron?
I have a question.
First, I want to share our statistics for August, our numbers. At the close of August, we had 182 active code enforcement cases. During the month of August, we closed 130 cases and opened 106 new cases. We abated 35 vehicles under the Abandoned Vehicle Abatement Program. We did 10 stop work notices on contractors doing construction without a permit. Had 8 cases on multifamily structures and 60 cases on public nuisances. So it was a busy month. I want to give you an update on the Community Development Block Grant for the Clean Streets. This was approved June 7th by the council. This was a grant that Housing applied for that I assisted with, and we were awarded, I think, roughly $500,000 for Clean Streets grant. And this is going to be ran by our partners at the Hope Center and through CityWorks. and other nonprofit organizations throughout the community. We've had a couple meetings so far. We've got all the moving parts going. We hope to launch this October the 9th. So we'll have our nonprofit groups, and we'll start targeting areas in low mod areas and doing cleanup, removal of vegetation, trimming trees, and this is a 3-year long grant. And a lot of positive feedback so far from our groups. I do believe there's going to be quite a few people involved in this.
Excellent.
Then update on the railroad cleanup. You can see the trees have been removed from Washington clear to Marysville, Baggett, Georgia Pacific. A lot of the bushes that attract the unhoused to camp along the railroad. The second phase of that will occur this week, and that'll be the trash removal. They've already done quite a bit of trash removal, but if you drive up Lincoln in certain spots, you'll see quite a bit of trash along the railroad tracks that will be removed. Our update on our cleanup of the basin between Lower Wyandotte and Olive Highway behind Central School and the businesses of Olive Highway. We've done 2 cleanups there so far. We've got majority of the trees trimmed. We just have a lot of chipping left to do. We got some assistance from the Butte County Sheriff Work Crew and their saw crew. Those guys have been amazing. They've been working with City Works back there. And also, we got some help from Feather River Park and Rec. We had about 3 5-yard trucks full of poison oak that we removed from back there. That's not something Recology will take, so they have some vacant land that they will allow that to dry out on, and then it'll be burned during burn season. Salmon Festival, we'll have our outreach booth there, code enforcement will. I'll also have the recycling coordinator out there, so we'll be next to the police department's booth, educating the public again on code enforcement, what it does, and State Bill 1383, all the recycling that the citizens are responsible for. City Works has also been working on 18th Street out at Cal Vista Estates, doing all the, removing all the vegetation, trimming a lot of the bushes along there, mowing the grass, getting that all trimmed up. And then September 6th, I put on a safety training about working alone for the docents. That was well attended, well received. I appreciated all their feedback, their fears that they deal with working alone. They were given a lot of good options, a lot of good tips on how to keep law enforcement notified where they're at, when they're leaving, parking, all kinds of good stuff to keep them safe.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Anyone else? I know Janet had a question.
Let's see, that was a question for Amy. We knew that this was a 3-tier for Esperanza, and so we knew that did we feel we weren't competitive enough to be awarded anything substantial on that phase 3? And because it was like, there was a shock that ran through City Hall when we were awarded the 1.7 million.
So we didn't think that we weren't competitive enough. It's just that the funding was highly competitive, and we were going against very large counties like San Diego, LA County. And we had also heard that they weren't funding more than one per jurisdiction. So we did feel that we were going to have to apply again, and we didn't think that we would get funded. So it was a surprise to get it. But I think that we've had several conversations with the staff at the state, and we talked about our program, and Ron has talked about his program, and I think that they're really excited about what we're doing in Oroville, and they're anxious to see what we can do with it.
Right.
So, yeah, we're excited.
Absolutely, thank you.
You know, I might add that the city administrator and myself were on a Zoom thank you message with the agency that funded this project. We were the smallest city, I think, in California that got any funding at all. We were dealing with San Diego, LA cities, so it was a very good thing and very complimentary to our staff to put that thing together, and our consultant too, Susie. So it's a very good thing.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
I'd like to, is there any update we can have on the municipal auditorium construction work? Does anybody have any of?
I held a job walk with the contractor, and and our construction management team, Trover. So we have, we just set up the baseline understanding between all of us of what the work is getting done. We have a couple of adjustments that we made. We're actually saving some money. I don't know what it is yet, but it should be a pretty good chunk. And work is going to be starting maybe in a week.
Oh, good.
Week or two.
Then that'll finish the bathroom areas that we've been
It's
dealing
going to do
with?
the bathrooms. There'll be some work in, there's a little bit of work in the gym, the changing rooms. We're putting in the ADA lifts, similar to what we have in City Hall here. There's some painting going on, and then the whole facade, that whole front area where around the ticket box is all getting replaced. All that glass, all the walls. With the savings that we have from that we identified in our job walk, I'm looking at replacing the two doors that are that enter the gym and the office area, because they're both, the locks are not good on those gyms. We've had some troubles with those, and we think it would be nice to actually have it match the whole new front end. And then I met with, just briefly with the construction team afterwards, and we have something set up to start talking about the exterior work that we're going to have coming up.
Good. Thank you, sir. It's good to hear. Any other questions or reports? John?
Mr. Mayo, I have a question for you. I know not too long ago, you and some of the staff and a couple of the council and mayor went out and did an exploratory tour of a property for a potential ... because I don't want to spoil it. And so will there be an update forthcoming for the council?
Yes, it's my hope that it'll be next council meeting. I just got some preliminary paperwork back from a couple of folks I've been working with over the last week or two, and I'll have some more substantial
Excellent.
in a couple of weeks to report out. So I'm working diligent with it, and
Okay.
we're moving forward.
And just one more. I just wanted to refresh my memory on that gateway update.
Yes, and also we met, Patrick and Wes and I met with Mr. Mendez a week and a half ago, and he promised me an update, and I emailed him today, and I said I know the council is anxious to hear, and he did share some information with us. One of the issues, I know he is working diligently on identifying tenants for the Gateway project. He's also done some infrastructure work and some other work. That's where I want to get more details from him. There has been a slowdown, I would say, on the construction side due to the high interest rates. That was one thing that is slowing down his progress. But so those are the things I walked away. But I'm working with him on a weekly basis to get something a little more detailed. And I'll share that with the council as soon as I get it. We did meet with him though.
Do we not have any milestones in place at such and such a time? This is the progress that we need to see and implement it?
Yeah, there's not specific milestones within the agreement. I mean, it's a 10-year agreement to get the project completed. We are supposed to meet quarterly with staff, and we're going to be doing that to make sure at least we continue to get updates and keep the progress moving.
All right, thank you so much.
You bet.
Well, we'll move forward to consent agenda next. Any council comments on the consent agenda or comments, or I'll entertain a motion?
We did receive one speaker card.
Oh, okay. Please.
On this. We do have one from Bill Spear on item number 5.
Come on up, Bill.
Mayor, Vice Mayor. I know I've spoke on this before, but on the engineering, we really could save a lot of money in the long run if we'd continue to maintain our tree replacement program better. There's a lot of the trees that are outgrown their planting site by years and years and years. You can look right across the street and see where the roots are doing damage to the curb and the sidewalk and the gutter. So then when we got to redo our streets, we had to have them all engineered because we didn't maintain the streets. We didn't maintain the trees. It's a lot cheaper to do the tree work, replace the older trees that have outgrown their planting site, plant new ones, and get a regular program so that we continue to renew the trees in our city and keep it on a program so it doesn't do a tremendous amount of damage, so we don't have to get it re-engineered every time we want to fix our streets. It's a lot cheaper to do tree work than to bring in the heavy equipment to redo the streets. And we have made a lot of progress since in the last few years when I brought it, and there was a push, but it seems like it's died out now. I think that if we would put a little more energy and thought into it, we could even benefit the city more. In the short run, it's going to cost a little bit, but in the long run, it's going to save millions and millions, and we can get on a sustainable program of tree replacement program. So there'll always be plenty of trees. There'll always be sufficient for their planting site, and it could, again, save us a lot in the long run. Thank you.
Sure.
That's all I have for submitted blue card.
All right. Entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that, but I do have a question. Ruth, how much is in our transportation? Where's, hi Ruth. I'm so used to you sitting over there.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
How much is in our transportation budget?
Our transportation budget, I think we were close to.
Well, the transportation impact fees. How much is it?
Transportation what?
Impact fees?
I would have to look that up. Do you want me to do that right now?
Okay.
All right. Is she looking it up? I guess so. I guess so.
Why is there such a small amount coming out of the transportation fee? Impact fees
Impact
for
fees,
these
probably.
projects? I'm just curious. There's only one project coming out of the transportation impact.
We have a traffic impact fee fund that has $3.5 million in it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the vote? Seeing none, let's open up the voting machine. On you.
Thank you. Motion passes with 7 yeses and 0 nos.
All right. So the next item up for business would be the update on the paving project, but I think we're going to move the public hearing up now so that we get that moved and we give plenty of time to the road up. Okay, so let's go to that issue, which is item number 12, Feather subdivision, including the Oroville Dubuque County Airport Land Use Commission's inconsistency determination and the second reading of ordinance 1873, rezone 45-acre APN number.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Just real quick, I noticed that we have a few folks from the Hmong community here. I'm assuming they were here for item number 4, which is in the consent calendar. I don't know if you might want to just mention that, if they're here for that was approved.
I'm pretty sure it was approved. So just to let you know, sometimes we go to the consent calendar. We thank you for coming and appreciate your being here in case there were any questions. Thank you, sir.
We did bring some flyers for the event, so I'm not sure where it's.
Oh, give it right to the clerk and we'll pass them out. Thank you. Real quick mention, what is the date of the event?
It'll be October the 14th and the 15th over at the Nelson Sports Complex.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, let's look at this public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, we do have one item of business we've got to recuse.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I need to recuse myself because I live over in that area.
Okay, gotcha. Welcome, Wes.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Wes Irvin, city planner. Before you, for the second time, is a proposal for a 172-lot, single-family market rate subdivision in the Thermalito area north of the airport. On July 18th, the city council voted to approve the project after discussing its pros and cons in some detail. The council ultimately decided that the need for market rate housing outweighs the potential safety risks from having a subdivision at about 4,000 feet north of the end of runway 2-20. At that time, the council certified the project EIR with a statement of overriding considerations, approved a general plan amendment, signaled its intent to overrule the Airport Land Use Commission's inconsistency determination, and approved the tentative subdivision map, and approved the first reading of the zoning change ordinance. Today, you are asked to approve the final two actions which would complete entitlement of this project. Number one, actually vote to override the Airport Land Use Commission's inconsistency determination after considering the comment letter that came in. The Airport Land Use Commission met on the 16th of August and sent the comment letter, obviously proposing that the density be in accordance with the B1 and B2 overflight zones. That's one residence per 10 acres in the B1 zone, and that's one residence per 5 acres in the B2 zone. The actual proposed density is 3.24 residences per acre. Secondly, to approve the second reading of the zoning ordinance change. In addition, you're asked to approve a parkland dedication process. Parkland dedication is required for any subdivision. In this case, 2.15 acres of land or its equivalent must be dedicated either by land dedication or an in lieu fee. The staff report in front of you discusses the staff's plans to determine whether land or a fee or both shall be dedicated. In this case, there is a 1 acre wetland area set aside in this subdivision. I can put a map up if you'd like, but I'll hold it unless somebody asks. And there is still some question as to whether that land is needed for wetland mitigation. And if that's the case, it cannot also be used for parkland dedication. So we have a 3-scenario option. And since then, the applicant has asked for the dedication to occur in phases. As the homes are built, he has a 3-phase project, 68 homes first, 58 homes second, and 46 homes third, marching from the north to the south. So we ask for your approval for staff to work out the details of the parkland dedication as more information is learned. Applicant Michael Staltley, is he here on Zoom to answer any questions you might have? No? All right. So we ask for council's approval.
Any questions from council? Seeing none, entertain a motion.
I motion that we adopt the resolution and waive the second reading and adopt ordinance 1873 and conduct the public hearing. Does that get everything you needed?
Second.
Delegate to staff the finalizing of the parkland dedication.
Okay. And approve staff to finalize the parkland
Thank you.
phases.
Okay. Any
Just
questions?
want to comment before.
Please go ahead.
So
Under the-
I think it's, because, this definitely kind of weighs into public safety. And the previous presentation that Mr. Irvin had done kind of suggested that some of the regulations were kind of outdated based on, I think, or at least that's how I understood it. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that some of this has not been reviewed for a long time, and there's been a lot of new data coming in to our purview as far as safety, airport safety, how frequently incidences occur, and just the situation that as it applies to this particular project and its location in proximity to our airport, that this is a reasonable ask and approval, given the new, even though the regulations haven't been updated, and the county is basing it kind of like on be careful, I have to be careful with this but it's somewhat outdated data that hasn't been updated in a long time, and so that this is a kind of a reasonable forward momentum here to approve this, taking safety into consideration, all that. In other words, we're not being irresponsible, because some might look at this and feel like this is somewhat irresponsible. Aren't you looking at what they're saying? This is not a good idea. But I think given the new data and information as we understand airport safety and this type of a project, that this is a reasonable step forward. I just wanted to kind of point that out. I think it's important that we draw
believe
attention.
that
I don't know if there's
the,
any other, you could probably do a much better job at presenting what I just said and more concise.
I believe that the airport land use compatibility plan was approved in 2017, so might be time to update it. If so, we'll monitor that very closely.
All right.
Could I actually just jump on as well? Because last time we talked about this, Mr. Huber, you kind of spoke a lot, kind of easing, because I had a lot of questions and concerns. And just to be candid, I still have concerns. I know that there's just that risk that you just, obviously, anybody that lives anywhere near an airport, there's potential for accidents to happen. The same as you buy a house next to a road, there's potential for a car to come barreling through your house as well. But so yeah, I have a lot of concerns about this, as I voiced last time we discussed it. But I think the main thing that kind of settled some of those concerns is some of the comments that you made, especially since your experience as a pilot. Could you just reiterate some of that, at least if not for anybody else, for myself?
Sure. So a few of the things. Number one, what you're doing by taking this action, the ALUC has the statutory authority to set. I'll use the term development standards, but it's really density standards, right? They prefer to have items that are less dense near airports. For obvious reasons. Typically what happens when an incident occurs, usually it occurs either usually right on climb out. That's the most dangerous part of flight, is when an airplane is taking off and climbing up to altitude. That really is the most dangerous part of flight. The other dangerous part of flight is upon landing. You're not going to have issues, generally speaking, upon landing, because typically what's dangerous about landing is you lose control, but the airplane will usually stay on the airport property somewhere. The danger in climb out really is in the first 1,000 feet to 2,000 feet, because if you lose an engine, a single engine, then it's a glider, and then you've got to turn and a pilot has to then turn and maneuver and try and get back to the airport if they can. The closer to the ground you are, the more of a problem it is. These are significantly enough away from the active runways that are typically used, where you're not going to have planes at 1,000 feet or below taking off over these properties. The prevailing winds are from the opposite direction, so predominantly you're going to be taking off the opposite direction. What will happen over these properties is landing, right? People will be in the pattern, turning on base and final and landing. you usually don't have any incidents there. I don't want to say never, but you typically don't. The other issue that you also have with these properties is you've got density of, help me, it's they're quarter acre lots, so you've got 4 per acre.
3.82.
Yeah, a little over 3 per acre,
Little over-
7,000 square foot lots.
So a little over 3 per acre, right? Let's for round numbers call it 4 per acre. There are plenty of opportunities for a pilot who has to bring something down in a residential area. What you want to avoid is high-rise buildings, apartment complexes, things where you have density, height and density. And you typically don't have that in these types of scenarios. You will very frequently encounter in circumstances like this, if you have a pilot who's on climb out who loses an engine, they will try and land on a road if they can. They'll try and land on a field. You very, very, very seldom see a plane run into a home as a result. And like I said, in this development, it is significantly away. Even if the prevailing winds were to take off in that direction, you would have a scenario where over these homes, you're going to be 1,500 feet to 2,000 feet, which is enough for someone to turn around and get away from the homes. You may not make it all the way back to the airport, but you're going to be awful close.
Thank you.
I think also in the discussion, the Oroville Airport in the city took a very positive step many years ago. And as you mentioned, their takeoffs would be toward the afterbury or the south end. The city has acquired all the property from the end of the runway to the waterway, so that will never be developed. So that makes the security for the future of that, which was a big step.
Never be developed unless you want to extend the runway.
That's true, yes, if you want to extend the runways, yeah.
There was one question raised in the ALUC letter, and that had to do with their concern that the city would be taking on liability in the case of an accident, and you addressed that previously.
I did. So 2 things. Number one, the liability in a situation like this is minimal. You know as well as I've said this to you, I don't know how many times, anyone can sue anybody for anything in the state of California and in the United States, right? I mean, it's just, that's the nature of the legal system we have. That doesn't mean you will have ultimate liability for that. What would need to, in order for liability to attach, what would need to happen is someone would have to say, but for this development being there, that the accident would not have caused any damages should this development not have been there, right? But it's even one step further. The development would have to be somehow the cause of damages. And if you have an incident where a plane is taking off and you lose an engine, the development is never going to be the cause of the damages. It's always going to be the aircraft losing its engine or losing power, always. And so I went back and I looked at case law, and there are very, very few cases where liability attached, and quite frankly, it's getting even more rare as we go on. I think we talked about it previously, and I don't necessarily need to bring it up, but some of the reasons for these light density came about as a result of the Farrell's ice cream incident.
Yep,
Right.
exactly.
And you're not putting stores here where lots of people are coming to congregate. You're putting single-family residential homes that have lots of space in between the buildings themselves. To be very candid, I would not be recommending that as a pilot. I would not be recommending this to you if I weren't very secure that you're not going to have any issues here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all, appreciate that. Any other comments? Well, let's call the roll then.
Okay, motion passes with 6 yeses and 1 abstention.
We have her coming back. Welcome back. All right, with that moving forward, let's back up to the item number 10, paving project update. Is that what we're up to?
Yeah, we are. Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'll kick this off before I pass this on over to our newer Public Works Director. This happens to be one of the biggest things both Fred and I have spent a lot of time on during his short time with the city. We've just getting an understanding. There's been a lot of work over the years done, and one thing I've learned is that road projects are significant. I mean, they take design work, they take engineering work. There's a lot of planning and preparation, and very rarely is a road project something that's done in one fiscal year. Most of them are going to carry on over 2 years, 3 years, or when we talk about the Highway 162 project, that's been in the hopper since 2015. So,
Brian?
Yes.
Can we hang on one second?
Yes.
I want to make sure, did we open public comment on that last item?
Actually, probably no, we didn't.
I
For a
don't-
public hearing.
Yeah, it was a public hearing,
Right.
and I don't think we opened public comment.
Okay, we can go
So,
back and read.
Yeah, do me a favor, yeah, please,
Oh.
sorry about that. I just want to make sure that
That's
we.
what he's here for, to keep us on track.
That's why I missed that.
So for the item number 12, public hearing is open. Any cards or anyone speaking?
None submitted.
Do any members of the
Unsubmitted?
public wish to address the council on this item? All right, seeing none. Now, let me ask the
None?
questions. Now, does the motion maker still wish to have made the motion knowing what you know?
I do.
And does the second still do that?
Yes.
And has anybody changed their vote?
No.
No.
Then result is the same.
Public hearing's closed.
Perfect.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Sorry about that.
No, I appreciate that.
Now we can go get.
Tracy. Thank you. All right, so number 12, and as we're waiting, I want to say too that I serve on the BCAG board, and I was at the whatever meeting that Fred had just come to work for us, and then they mentioned they had a deadline on project submittals, I think September 1st. So I said to Fred, man, you got to get your crew together, real hurry, and they have done a great job. They have really put it together in a short time period, so I just want to say that up front. His staff and civil engineering have done it, so let's
Thank
take a
you.
look.
Yeah, no, we've been working very closely, obviously getting a pulse on what's been in the queue for a number of years. Like I said, since the Highway 62 safety project's been in the queue since 2015, but there's a lot of other ones there that are in design or some sort of planning phase. But the goal here tonight was to share with your council what we hope to accomplish in 23-24. There's one obviously significantly expensive big project on that list, and there's a number of other ones as well, and some other things that we want to get in the queue and in the hopper for looking forward to 24, 25 and future years. And again, as the mayor mentioned, we've had a lot of great conversations with Yvonne from BCAG, and I know Yvonne is here, and our partners with North Star Engineering, and I know representatives are here as well for any questions if we want to get technical on some of these issues. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Fred to kick it off.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Mayor, for those nice words. Tonight, we're just going to give you a nice slide presentation of all the upcoming projects. So in the upcoming preparation of the early 24 paving season, there's been a lot of progress that's happened as far as design review. The job's going out to bid and very close to construction. So the next several slides will explain that. Next slide, please. Okay, Highway 162 is the centerpiece. It's the big gorilla on the block. It's planning to start early spring 2024. We just got our notice to proceed from Caltrans over the weekend, as a matter of fact, so that's a huge milestone for us. The RFP to go out to contract for bidding we're looking at possibly by the end of this week to go out so we can start getting bids for that project. The 162 project, it's a safety corridor project. I've got more information on a slide coming up, but that's our big one. The other large project we have planned for the 23-24 fiscal year is Nelson Road project. I know that's in the sight of many folks. There's been a little bit of a delay there, and we're working on some improvements in the background and with an MOU with Thermalito Water and Sewer District, and hopefully we'll have some more updates on that very soon. The Montgomery Roundabout project, we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight, and Washington Avenue as well. Other projects of note for 23-24 is the downtown pavement improvement. We're getting close on design there, so I'll speak to that in a little bit as well in the next few slides. We actually had something completed this year. That's the Yard and Bridge Street improvement, new ADA corners and removal of the valley gutter, new sidewalk striping. So it's been a great improvement right in front of the high school as well. And the other piece that me and Brian have been talking about, and I'm actually very excited about, one of our stated goals for the end of this fiscal year, if not by the end of this year, is to find a PCI, a Pavement Condition Index software platform, which is going to help us plan logically right-size projects and figure out which streets actually need the work and what type of work. Our target goal for getting that is towards the end of this fiscal year. So,
and if I could piggyback on that, Fred,
Sure.
that to me has been one of the biggest things on my wish list since I've been here, to help us really identify and understand I mean, obviously we can drive around, we can see what roads need repair, we can hear from our constituents or hear from your constituents, but ultimately we want to really be more just looking forward and having some really concrete data to really identify. We have limited resources, so with those limited resources, we want to make sure we attack the roads that really are in the most dire need, and this type of software system will be tremendously helpful.
yes, it's going to give us a lot of programming logic is I think is kind of what we're looking for. So we're spending our money correctly and right-sizing the projects. Okay, so that's kind of 23-24 fiscal year. Looking ahead for planned projects for 2025. The Washington asphalt rehabilitation. Some of the bullet points that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes is the addition of new bike lanes and illuminated crosswalk signage. This project limits is from like the UP Bridge all the way up to Highway 162. Another project we're working on in design is the Table Mountain Street improvement, which is a very large holistic improvement, which I'll get to a little bit later in the presentation as well. Oroville Road resurfacing has come back up, and we're looking diligently to do that. Linden Avenue is an asphalt and curb restoration and some drainage improvements. And then touching on historic downtown roadway improvements on Tier 2. So with that, I'm going to move on into Highway 162. So Highway 162, the city is committed, we're right around $8 million for the budget that's construction and CM management. It's about a 3-mile project. There's multiple improvements. There's sidewalk gap elimination, pedestrian improvements, stormwater conveyance improvements, new signal lighting, and a high-intensity active crosswalk at Spencer, which we don't currently have now. That means it's got bright lights and it lets people know there's a crosswalk there and there's people in it. It's going to be a really wonderful improvement. Other improvements are the underground infrastructure for new street lighting. When the Caltrans part kicks in, there'll be new street lighting and signage as well that's coming with it. So it's a wonderful piece. It's going to modernize our sidewalks, our stormwater conveyance, and tie everything in neatly. So we got multiple sidewalk gaps up and down Highway 162, and it's going to be fantastic to get new driveway approaches in other commercial places that don't have them, improvements, and to be able to have all the sidewalks connected on the same side of the street. So it's going to be a major facelift for the city on that corridor. It's going to be a great improvement for our commercial folks and our residents. And I believe the word is transformative is what this project is going to be for the 162 project. Any questions on that one?
Fred, you might identify for the public.
Sure.
The beginning and the ending part on Highway 162. Where does this project start?
Forgive me, that was in my bulletin, and
Yeah.
I skipped it. So it's roughly from Highway 70, Feather River Boulevard, to the far limits up Olive Highway, to right about where the Starbucks is, which I believe is Foothill. So it's a very large, long project. It's the whole corridor.
So for the public to expect, there's going to be a lot of work on that roadway in that section, and there'll be a lot of work.
Yes. And that's just the city phase, and then Caltrans is here tonight, and they'll elaborate on some of their upgrades that are bringing to the 162. So about the time we're finishing up, Caltrans is going to come in and do more projects too. A piece that I failed to mention with that project is too, we're going to be there'll be some new striping, and so there'll be new thermoplastic on the roadway, so there'll be a little better visibility on our striping on our lanes. So how do we pay for this? So the next slide, please. The project budget for Highway 62 breakdown. like I mentioned a few minutes ago, it's right around $8 million that we're committed to it. We have a $3.5 million from ATP, Active Transportation Grants funding. We're using about $1.16 million from Regional Surface Transportation Program funds. Our local transportation funds, or LTF, is $923,000. We have a little under $500,000 for our SB1 funding, the DWR settlement funds of $500,000. Measure U, about $530,000, and our REAP grant fund is a little under $400,000 to help.
Before we
finance.
move, we have a question from Councilman Weber.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was just wondering, on this 162 project, is there any beautification elements at all incorporated in the middle or the medium, like dedicated left-hand turn lanes or planters where we could put some trees?
I don't think we're doing landscaping beautification
Okay.
on this project.
And is it too far along the process to include some of that?
If we did that, we would stop the whole, yes,
Okay.
it would be too far.
Now, what if later on, can we reserve the right, because that's California, that's a highway.
Yes.
But I would love to see, because if I was involved in the beginning of this, way back when, I would have been asking for that right there. How do we beautify it? Because Oro Dam is obviously, it's got its issues with, when you pull off the highway, it just looks rather industrial. So I would love to see it have more of a beautification element down the center with some dedicated left-hand turn lanes and some trees planted, stuff like that. Now, maybe this isn't the time for this discussion, but I would just like to plant the seed of how we would go about reserving permission to do that in the future.
Okay. I think that would take additional planning, and that's something we can talk about going in the future, but for this program, we can't. Everything's been accepted in the program by Caltrans, and the encroachment permits have already been provided. So there's no, if we wanted to do modifications of that scale, it would set the project back.
Yeah.
Going in the future, I think that could be a conversation with Caltrans and other agencies.
And we do have Caltrans. I'm not sure if now's the time if you or Yvonne want to speak on that, but I know we're kind of going into the next item, which is, no, that's okay, because
I don't want to muddy the waters.
this item is the Highway 162 project. This is obviously the grant that the city received is significant, and this is a significant investment that then Caltrans is going to invest, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but $25-30 million in their components, but 40 million now, 35? Every day, every month?
It goes up.
It goes up.
Ivan, introduce yourself, please.
Good evening. My name's Ivan Garcia. I work for the Butte County Association of Governments. I'm the programming director over there, and I've been working closely with city staff and Caltrans to make this corridor happen. It stems back from the city of Oroville applying for active transportation program funds back in, 2015 or something. And the problem back then was it was really lowballed in scope and funding. Caltrans is here to give a presentation on their project right after this presentation. I really like the direction you're going on adding beautification elements along the entire transformative corridor. Shade tree, relief for the public, some shade and whatnot. But unfortunately, with the color of funds that's programmed here, you'd have to use local funds. They're very specific on what you can and cannot do. But it's something we would love to entertain and work with the city moving forward. And I'm sure Caltrans would be agreeable to enhancements like that.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
One of the things I do want to just mention, there's a difference between enhancements, as you mentioned, down the center versus enhancements on the shoulders.
Yeah.
They may not be amenable to enhancements down the middle, but they certainly might be on the shoulders.
Yeah.
So just I don't want to just again be flexible.
Yeah.
Sure.
Beautification. I mean, they may say, "Hey, we can't have it down the middle," because I think for a lot of that, aren't there?
You have too many driveways.
The two-way turn lanes.
Yeah.
Way too many driveways,
Site
and then you get
distance
into
issues.
who can cross where. And
But beautification, they love beautification projects as well. So.
Who doesn't?
So I've actually got a future agenda item. I'm going to talk about that, but I don't think right now is the appropriate time because I want to get through Mr. Mayo's presentation. But yeah, so thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And really quick, this is, as Fred mentioned, very transformative. There's a number of projects here. this project, the one that Caltrans is going to talk about, and we have 2 or 3 more that are going to be talked about too that are, I think, have some significant potential to really have incredible improvements on a lot of transportation issues, aesthetics, a lot of positive potential here. So, correct.
Thank you, and thank you, Yvonne, for adding that on there. So Nelson Road at 4th Street, it's our friend. It's been here for a while. We had earlier this year, we had some delays from Thermalito due to piping issues and supply chain issues. So we're currently working on an MOU with them to come into agreement with us. We want to postpone our work until spring of next year, early summer, before the end of the fiscal year to do our street reconstruction. The thought is we want them to come in, fix their infrastructure, so they don't have to come in right after we've done repaving. It makes the best sense. It's going to be the most cost effective. So this MOU is going to make an agreement between us and them that their work will be completed so we can do our work, and we only impact the city, citizens, and Caltrans once. And that's the plan. So that one is, we're looking probably late April, early May for construction to start over there on Nelson Road. And with the Nelson Road project, it's a complete road base failure. The contractor has to go down 2 feet to reconstruct all of the road base to build a strong platform for the new road so we don't have future failures. The problem is a little bit of a problem. Thermalito is about 3 feet to the top of their transmission water main, and we're going down 2 feet. So that's a piece that Thermalito needs to kind of engineer and figure out. So their pipeline safeguard while we're doing our work. I've spoke with Knife River. They're flexible. We can still get programmed into their construction season in early 2024. Nelson Avenue project budget breakdown. Next slide, please. It is funded through SB1 funds, and at the current, we're at estimated at $283,526 for that project. And again, this road base is going to be repaired, new asphalt, and new striping. It's going to be a nice piece of a brand new road, and we should have several years of no problems with potholes and unraveling of the asphalt. Yes.
Just a quick question. You know, it's not surprising that that area has failure, because if you think about what's around that area, you know, you got Home Depot, a lot of big trucks.
Sure.
Coming in, you have Station 63, you know, of course, fire trucks are pretty heavy too, especially when they're full of water. So, so it's not surprising, you know, that considering the amount of use that roadway gets. So going back to your program, does that take into consideration the types of businesses or activity of a particular street, how it's impacted?
I believe it was originally engineered for all that, Mr. Smith, and with the Thermalito, we're working with them. They're probably going to pour over the top of their water main a 6 or 7 sack slurry, which will give extra strength to protect around their pipe and give us a strong foundation to rebuild the road base. That's why they're going down so far, is to eliminate all the failed materials, all the substructure, come back in, do real good quality compaction with new materials, and it'll address a lot of those problems. A lot of it is the water getting in between the cracks on the asphalt. Then the heavy trucks are driving over, pumping it, and that makes the cracks bigger and things start splitting. And that's part of the unraveling issue too. So those will be addressed in this project.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you. I have been looking through here, and I don't see how far so is it just like in the Home Depot area right there where this is going to be, the repairs are going to be made, or is it going to go like underneath the freeway? That's
Sure.
what I thought. Okay.
Yeah,
far
the limits are at the off-ramp at Highway 70 to go underneath the overpass there. It's where the bad potholes are at. Those are the limits. Basically, the diamond of the interchange is my understanding where the project is at, and that's where the majority of the unraveling is at.
I thought I had heard at some point somewhere that there was going to be road repairs as far past the freeway as where Nelson School is. I think that's 3rd Street or 3rd Avenue or something like that.
No, we're not going down that
Not that
far. Just to the west of the diamond.
Okay.
A few years back, predates me, there was an asphalt program that came in. There was good asphalt. We are going to the western extent of that where the original asphalt program started. We're going to tie into that because it's good road, and it's the same on the other side of the diamond. It's where they left off going towards the Home Depot. That's those are the extents of it. It's pretty much the border of the diamond of the interchange.
Okay,
My pleasure.
that's good. Keep going.
Okay, Montgomery Street Roundabout. So we have a plan for the overlay of the asphalt and striping. It looks like we're going to be replacing 3 to 4 inches of asphalt, restriping of the roundabout. We are also doing a traffic survey to see what we can do for some type of traffic calming patterns there, maybe doing some lane realignments, and we want to do pedestrian and bike facility improvements in the roundabout as well. And that's in the early stages of development, which is going to be the bigger part of this more holistic, strategic look of what we want to do with Table Mountain, Washington Avenue. And Montgomery is very much in the middle of it. Matter of fact, I think Montgomery was kind of the genesis of these other projects that I'm going to be mentioning here in a few minutes. So with the Montgomery Roundabout project breakdown, construction costs are estimated about $1.2 million right now, about $40,000 in project management. We've identified funding sources of about $150,000 for LTF, local transportation funds, $600,000 in Measure U funds, and about $450,000 in our traffic impact fees. That Measure U money has really been a wonderful thing for us and to actually get some of these projects programmed, and thank you for that. The historical downtown roadway improvement. We have an aerial survey that's been compiled from our great friends over at North Star Engineering. We're still identifying the best areas to improve in the downtown area. There's different solutions where some streets might be able to get a crack seal, some may get an overlay with a slurry, but others, and many more others, have base failures, and there's alligatoring. That's the kind of crumbling of the roadway, and there's dips in it. Those are base failures. We're trying to identify what we can do this fiscal year that gives us our greatest buck with some limited funds. We've identified a few projects that we could potentially resurface. That would be Montgomery Street, from Meyer Street up to the Montgomery Roundabout. That would be typically like a slurry sill. And we've also identified Meyer Street with a crack sill from Monterey to High Street. And with the crack sill on these larger projects, it's not going to make the road smoother, but what it does help slow down. Almost arrest the cracking and the deterioration of the roadway. It repels water, it keeps it from going underneath the asphalt and starts disturbing the road bed. So it does add some time to our roads, and that's what we're looking for as some stopgap measures right now. And with the PCI that we're going to be talking about here in a few minutes, it's going to help us strategize and do more strategic planning on what those streets look like with the help and the assistance of
Question from
North Star.
Councilman
Yes,
Briggs.
sir.
Councilman Briggs.
Thank you.
Yes,
My
ma'am.
question was, I know that the downtown businesses have talked a lot with your predecessor about traffic calming on Montgomery Street, Huntoon, those being two that are, quick downhills into downtown. There's been quite a few accidents. So are you considering those as well in this project?
Yes, the street name Huntoon has came to my attention multiple times, so yeah, it's absolutely a part of what we're looking at.
Okay, yeah, Huntoon, and then I know the Montgomery Street, if you're coming down from the roundabout towards Myers.
Yes.
We had previously discussed adding additional stop signs or other traffic calming measures there because there is a lot of traffic pedestrian issues in that region.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
We're looking at multiple things, and especially with that roundabout, we're looking at some potential traffic calming. We have to do a traffic count to see what's actually going through there, and we're in pretty early talks with the original designer of the roundabout and what we can actually do that's safe for us, because it's not the first time I've heard that there's a lot of speed coming off that hill, and it seems like there might be some confusion in the roundabout too, heading to the south towards Washington and with the multiple lanes. So yes, we're very much looking into that, and we'll have a much clearer picture hopefully in the next few months of what we can actually do there.
Thank you.
And I'll be more than happy to report that back with an action plan.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. For the budget breakdown for the historical street improvements, we've identified about $350,000 for this potential fiscal year, 23-24. The funding source from that is going to be SB1 RMA, Road Maintenance and Rehabilitation Account. It's not a whole lot of money, but with Highway 162 taking the majority of time, bandwidth, and resources and funds, it's a very ambitious project for us. I kind of want to reiterate a little bit too that the Highway 162, it's probably the largest public works roadway project we've had here in the last several years. So it's a big one, and I don't want that status to be taken away by maybe some smaller projects that we're absolutely getting out and hitting the street with. So it's more of a holistic approach, and we're trying to get asphalt on the ground and get sidewalk, curb and gutter, and ADA compliance happening simultaneously. Okay, Washington Avenue. This Washington Avenue, much like Highway 162, we're looking at construction for this to be in 24-25. This is a pretty ambitious project. We're looking at starting from the railroad bridge, the Union Pacific Railroad Bridge, right on the side of town here, all the way out to Highway 162. The project was originally just a resurfacing, grind, and repave, but it's morphed into a much nicer project that's going to benefit the city and 3 schools. We're looking at adding bike lanes, illuminated crosswalks, bike lanes, new sidewalks from basically bridge down to 162. And something that we're going to need a little bit of instruction on and direction from council with installing new bike lanes for the schools and the larger picture that I'm going to explain a little bit more in a few minutes. We're going to have to address the on-street parking on Washington. And counts, it's typically between 3 and maybe 10 cars on an average basis. And I think Brian's got us up on Google, and we can kind of look at where most of that parking is.
Yeah, this is one where just to tee it up a little bit more. This is obviously the 162 project, both the city's portion and Caltrans is going to be significant, and then this is another one that again this is kind of the phase 1 of this other significantly again transformative project for the city. Going all the way, obviously we're talking about Washington right now, but Washington to the roundabout, and then the roundabout all the way to basically County Center Drive. But this is the first phase, and as Fred mentioned, this was pretty closely, it was 90% done, I think, on engineering for just a grind and replace. But frankly, we started having conversations with BCAG, and a grind and replace, just to give you some figures, is probably going to be in the $2.5 million range.
Yes.
That's about twice as much road money as we get in a year. So BCAG, again, to their credit, said, hey, what do you think about other alternatives? There's been a lot of housing that's been developed up on Table Mountain. There's a lot of schools here on Washington. Adding bike lanes could be significantly helpful for this community, and what it does is it makes you eligible for funding. So with that, we said, wow, that sounds like a wonderful idea, both for the community, but as Fred mentioned, if it goes, I'm showing here from 162, this is Washington, as you see, and most of the properties here on Washington, in fact, all of them have driveway access. As I'm strolling, and you can see here, this was a picture, there's not any cars, you don't see any cars parked on this yet. We've driven it many times in the past couple weeks as this idea has been discussed, and you'll see 2 or 3 on this part of the road. But once you get past the stop sign here, and it goes down towards the roundabout, these particular properties don't have driveway parking, and you can see then there are a handful of cars parked there. We're confident there's ways to mitigate a lot of this. There's parking lots, there's some options on different sides of the roads, but ultimately, I think one of the things we wanted to talk to the council about was if there was an appetite to go forward with this type of a project, we would obviously, the elimination of on-street parking would be a requirement because the road is just, frankly, it's not wide enough to have on-street parking and have safe bike lanes. I'm going to let Yvonne add in a little bit here.
If I may, again, getting back to if there's an appetite for bicycle and pedestrian types of improvements, one thing that stands out there is the schools and all the nice development, the housing that you all built off of, where's it?
Table Mountain.
Table Mountain. You know, I'm sure there's a bunch of kids that are trying to get to school and I see safe passages. The priority in funding at the state level, which comes down to BCAG, is reducing greenhouse gases, getting people out of the car, reducing vehicle miles traveled, safe access for kids. You add those elements to this project or other projects, it opens the door for BCAG to help, because those are priority areas for our agency. And I also, one thing that pops out here is you really don't have really good north-south access for bicycle and pedestrian types of movement. You just don't have that. So building that anchor trunk system on Highway 162 on the south, you still need a north-south for other areas to connect to. And this is a good opportunity if you're going to reconstruct Washington. If you add those elements, then that opens the door for our agency to help. If that's what you want to do, I'm not here to tell you what to do.
Quick question I have.
Yes, sir.
On the bike lane that you're talking about, are you talking about a lane on both sides of the road or just one side?
Don't know. Then that's something that's being looked at right now. I invited Butte County Public Health and Chico Vallo Cycling Club to come give some ideas for the city to consider, but that's your decision. It could be, it doesn't have to be bike lanes. It could be a big sidewalk, multi-use path, something like that. Just something safer for people who are willing to or have to ride or bike to make their daily trips, something safe that would be meaningful.
It also brings them down into the retail area for shopping too.
Yeah, and you can add other elements, some nice decorative streetscape and.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Smith.
Yeah, just a comment on that. So I personally bike because I live over on the other side, and it is not safe, period, to travel from down Table Mountain towards the roundabout and up through there. So I commute into town frequently on my bike, and it is definitely a problem. And so I think that's a great point with all the new housing and the schools, the potential for an incident, especially the steepness, the grade of Table Mountain with the new sidewalk surface. There's just a lot of potential for things to end not well. So I think it's something we certainly need to definitely look at.
All right. Any other questions? Fred, where are we at with your presentation?
Okay.
Councilman Weber?
Yeah, I don't know. I was on the queue, but it disappeared.
Okay.
So, the question I have, so in particular from Yard in Washington over to Mitchell, I mean, you just said you've driven them many times. I mean, the parked cars on the side of the road are like right up against traffic. So what would you do with the cars that people needed to park right there on Washington? And then, because there's no room to put a bike lane there.
Well, that's where, again, this is we think there's ways to mitigate some of the, are you talking about this area here, Councilmember?
No.
You're talking further
Scroll up.
down south, or?
Yeah. No.
Other way?
Yeah, that way.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, so.
That right there, that's tight.
Yes, it is tight, and that's where, and there's on-street parking on both sides right now, so.
Well, I know, but traveling both ways, north or south, it's, I mean, when you're, and I drive that thing every single day, several times a day. I mean, your car is right up against the parked cars. So what are we gonna do? We'd have to make it a no parking zone and then put some, and we could.
That's the question for the council to consider. The only way it's feasible, and again, we talked about bike lanes, that's when we met with, the team, I think a couple weeks ago, we said that the only option here would be to prohibit on-street parking there. So that would be, obviously something we want to talk to the community members about to see what the, and there's ways you can mitigate it. But you're right, there's not enough room to have on-street parking, two-lane road, and bike lane. It's not feasible.
No. So I mean, I think if I had to guess, that's one half of that road right there is I represent those on the left-hand side of our screen right there. That's my district. And I would be willing to bet they'd put up a fight if we tried to take away their parking.
I agree. Anytime you talk about removing parking, But there could be some design alternatives. It could be a multi-use path on one side. I don't know. So it'd be like a glorified sidewalk per se, that bikes can use two direction. I don't know. But I would like to bring in some outside experts to, within the constraints, you know, what would be some meaningful bicycle and pedestrian improvements for the council to consider? And that's your choice. Maybe there isn't an appetite. I don't know.
I would be opposed to paying consultants to come and tell us that.
No,
So-
I have many friends and
Yeah.
experts that are willing to come.
Yeah, because I understand Vice Mayor Smith's assertion about that certain segment of the road over there being dangerous, and I can see the benefit of doing this, but it's just like we have to rob from one in order to give to another then. That's the bottom line.
I'd like to also, to make sure we keep in mind, all those houses, basically from Oro Drive or Avenue up to McClellan, they all have dedicated spaces. They have driveways, they have garages. There's a few homes up by Yard that do not.
Have you seen how little those driveways are?
Yeah, I do.
They're tiny.
Yes.
You have to back it up.
Like, I have one constituent over there that drives a full-size Dodge truck. He can't even park it directly in his driveway.
Yeah.
And he has to park it sideways. So, I mean, it's inadequate amount of parking already.
No, and we fully recognize that this would be something we want to get community input on. That's why, but ultimately we wanted to see if there's an appetite from the council, because ultimately we can do a grind and replace, and we're not going to, BCAG funding will not be eligible for it, and this isn't a threat, it's just a reality. We have to use our own dollars for that, and that was the path we were heading down. Until learning of this other opportunity, and then we looked at a big picture from north to south, the ability to have just a more a safer. I mean, from that entire, 'cause that's, besides Highway 70, that's how you north south and getting from going into downtown parts of Oroville throughout the entire community. So we felt it was a great opportunity to at least entertain, to see, what does the community think about it? And also, what are some potential solutions to mitigate concerns that are raised?
Something else I would bring up too is if we made it more easily accessible for commercial vehicles to go down that path, then you were going to absolutely encourage the destruction of that roundabout real fast, because if you follow any long trailer around that roundabout, guess where they drive? They don't drive around it, they drive over it, because they can't. They can't drive around it. So the back wheels of the trailer literally go up and over the curb.
It's meant to do that with the feathered skirt.
Yeah, well, it doesn't enhance the look of it for sure, because all those tire tracks across it, so, and I highly doubt it's actually designed to do that.
They are rolled curb to
Well, I understand that,
absorb
but I mean,
the tires.
Is it advantageous to do that, though, to encourage that? That's the question, so is that beneficial to the aesthetics of the roundabout? So I mean, right away, I'll tell you that I'm opposed to that, okay? But I'm down for talking about it more, but I mean, for me, that doesn't make any sense. So.
Which part? I'm sorry, Councilman.
The part about,
bike lanes, getting rid of parking.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you're talking about the roundabout or the bike lanes.
The bike lanes and
yeah,
getting rid of on-street
I'm opposed to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you done?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Could you move that map farther toward the south? Keep going, keep going, keep going. Stop right there. One of the things that might be a potential mitigation too, because some of the houses do have a driveway. There's the gravel road that comes out of the backside of East Side School, and it's potential that we could probably, and I'm just saying potential as a mitigation, is that those that that we restrict from not parking, the possibility exists that we could make a deal and have them park in the back of their homes. Because that property is available there used to be a gravel road there years ago. So I'm just saying there's mitigations down the line. And it might be an enhancement to the property to have off-street parking in the rear. Just possibilities to throw out there, that's all. Okay, let's keep moving forward to get the presentation going here.
Okay, so the project breakdown, like we were just discussing, for Washington, as is, grind and repave, we're estimated cost between $2.5 and $3 million as of today. Without the bike lane improvements and sidewalk improvements, there'd be most likely no BCAG support, so that would all come out of our general fund funding sources for this project. The other piece for this Washington Avenue, it would be kind of the centerpiece, if you will, to the connecting of the north part of the city and the south part. The Green Bridge, it could be the potential part to tie us, to get us over the river, because there's no other real reasonable way for pedestrians and bicyclists to get from north of the river to the south part, to the shopping, to the transportation hubs. We're trying to really envision mode shift planning, and that's getting people potentially more out of their cars, get them more on their bikes, get them more walking, and there's an actual safe potential connectivity from the north part of the city to the south part, and we don't have that right now, and that would be a real enhancement with the 162 project. I understand about the on-street parking thing. I'd like to think there's a workaround there and we can get to it, but we really like to kind of get this going forward if we can, if there's an appetite from City Council to start this first enhancement, which will connect us up to Table Mountain, which I'll be talking about in a few minutes as well. So I just wanted to add that piece to it. The other piece that we have planned, like I alluded to earlier for this fiscal year for the street department, is the soliciting and the purchase of a pavement management software system. Again, it's going to give us current real-time conditions of our streets. PCIs typically can kind of make it a very colored coordinated, in most cases, a GSI layer where we can put it on top of our GIS layer, and you can see at a glance the conditions of your streets, of all your collectors, all your thoroughfares, all of your residential, and with the color scale, it's a sliding scale of the condition of the roads. These are in real bad failure, they need to be repaired. To this one can do a simple overlay or a slurry seal, maybe some crack seal, and it helps us program how to spend money and to actually make a very coherent attempt at fixing our streets and getting it planned out over years. And it's an extremely useful tool. Okay, next slide.
I have a question.
Table Mountain, I'm sorry, did you have a question?
Councilman Goodson.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I was looking at your pavement management software system, and the thought had occurred to me, and I don't know what the feasibility of this is, but what is the criteria for using the city's drone to acquire videos and images that pinpoint infrastructure repair and management? And would drone technology be more effective and expeditious in something like this? Because I know they use it on highways.
To the best of my understanding, I don't think we have a certified drone pilot as of today. That's one piece. It would be, to my knowledge. I could be wrong, but that's my understanding.
We don't?
You know, I'm not aware if we have a drone that would be able to assess the condition of the roads. We can certainly look into that. Again, I'm not aware that we do.
Right. And I know North Star did get some aerial footage or photography of our downtown. Some of the PCIs that I've worked with before worked in coordination with, say, the garbage collections, where they put cameras and GPS recorders on garbage trucks, because garbage trucks go down every street on routes, and they hit every alley, every road, and that's a potential. I'm not saying that's an application here, but at an agency that I've worked at before, that's exactly what they did to establish their
Innovative.
PCI. Yeah, it's the assessment piece and to build up the profile. There's a lot of bandwidth, there's a lot of resources that use that I'm not sure Public Works can currently take on with all the other duties that we have. So this software would be very helpful for that.
All right, thank you.
Over to Table Mountain Boulevard Street Improvement. This would be the second prong, if you will, to the bigger strategic north-south corridor that we could call the Table Mountain Washington Avenue corridor, connecting Grand, Nelson, and Civic Center to Montgomery and to the downtown area. The planning for that is improve sidewalks, curb and gutter, eliminate the curb and gutter gaps that we currently have all the way up to Civic Center, up on top of the hill. New sidewalks. Two-way cycle track is something that we're proposed, which would, that mode shift that we're looking for to get more people on bicycles and walking in a safe route. Some potential landscape medians, a separated bike lane, bus shelters, and a few other type pieces, and repaving portions of Table Mountain Road to tie that into the Montgomery Roundabout, which ties us in Washington, which would tie us all the way into 162. And it would be a very elaborate, connected pedestrian and bike paths for safe to get to the three schools, Oroville High School, Oroville Elementary, and the other school that's in the area. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, no,
Vice Mayor Smith?
I beat you.
you did.
Okay.
So you're-
Who's up first? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, what you keep describing, it just reminds me of a walkable community.
Yes.
That proves to be a very healthy community.
Your turn.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we want to take advantage of our beautiful waterway that goes right through the middle of the city.
Absolutely.
Keep hearing 5 lakes and a river, and we want to capitalize on those assets, and it's just, it's a wonderful piece.
I just wanted to add on to, as an observation, when you review the general plan and you have this amount of, projects, residential development, all these things happening, really, like the bike paths and some of these other things were supposed to be triggered. They should have already actually been implemented. I'm not quite sure how that was missed. I was actually personally a little disappointed because I thought I was going to get a bike path down Table Mountain. So when it got put back to the way that it was, I was a little surprised at that, personally surprised, because with all of those developments, it was supposed to just automatic, it was supposed to happen. But one thing I've learned in government, not everything is always automatic. So we're all on a learning curve here, right?
Sure.
So, but just considering that, really, these are things that should have technically happened anyway. Just wanted to kind of get that out there.
Thank you. And these plans come to fruition with the Table Mountain and the Washington, and once 162 is done, I think it's one of those legacy pieces that everybody on the dais and us over here, we could be very proud of, because it would be a substantial improvement to the city, and very excited about that. So. Table Mountain budget timelines and breakdowns. For fiscal 23-24, it's going to be more engineering and environmental review type things. We're looking at $100,000 for local fund for those initial reports and design, and then design, phasing, engineering, and those type of things. It'd be fiscal year 24-25 and construction, hopefully in 25-26. That's what we're looking for, and hopefully our good friends at BCAG can help us find some good funding for these wonderful bike lanes and improvements. Okay, almost done, guys. I feel like I'm putting the room to sleep. So, Ophir Hill resurfacing, this is what we're looking at for fiscal year 24-25 as well. We got approximately about a half mile of roadway out there. That's the city's responsibilities. After a recent conversation with Butte County, it sounds like that's become a priority for them, and we're trying to get in line with them to phase our construction with theirs in fiscal year 24-25, the construction of 24-25. This is partially funded by CDBG funds, and that's kind of where we're currently at with that one. And that one's close to being completely designed. Next slide, Linden Avenue. This is another one that's probably going to spark some conversation. Linden Avenue improvement project. Currently, the road is between 20 to 22 feet of pavement. And we have on-site or on-street parking on both sides of the street. And at different times, we only have about 12 feet of clear lane, which restricts fire, police, public works, and other folks that are trying to get down the street. We're proposing, we have an easement of 50 feet on the right-of-way on that section of Linden Avenue. And we'd like to widen the paved area up to 28 feet. improve sidewalk, curb and gutter, drainage, because there's no drainage on this section of road now. It's ponding, it's not great in the wintertime. And potentially having to remove parking on one side of the street. And we will ask for direction on council on that, how we can proceed on that project. This would be a pretty substantial improvement for traffic to get in and out for fire, police, and public works, and just the folks that live in the neighborhood trying to creep down the street that's 12 feet wide while parking on both sides. And if there's kids in the neighborhood and pets, there's all these potential risks with a compacted street. Construction estimate costs are about $200,000, and that would be through SB1 funding. Engineering designs are ready, and it could be constructed in 2024 this year. And we do seek council direction on the feedback for Washington Avenue and Linden. And that pretty much concludes my my PowerPoint. If there's any other, well, actually, I have a couple more slides I'd like to talk on, but we're looking for direction on those.
Questions from council or comments? We probably went along.
Okay.
I have something.
Sure. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I know you said that you were looking for direction on Washington and Linden, and
Yes.
I know that the initial shock of losing on-street parking is definitely something of concern, but I do feel like the ability to integrate funding from BCAG really helps make it so that our road improvement budgets can go further. And I do also value the increased safety for bikes and pedestrians. I think that that's something that we should continue to look at. I know that there's been concerns brought up, and I think those concerns are really valid, but I do believe that there are options that we should pursue in order to capitalize on the opportunity of funding with you guys and provide those improvements to our community.
I just want to add, not just funding through BCAG, but it opens the door for federal and state funding where the deeper pockets are. But
Even better.
just to let the council and everybody know here, as a region, in the state active transportation program, we have secured over 90 million in the first 6 cycles of funding. So this region competes well for big projects.
And I thank you guys for looking at these creative solutions in order for us to really stretch our transportation dollars and make these improvements. I really do appreciate that partnership and that creative thinking.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Our engineering team's been very key with that, and Josh has been very active and very supportive with this.
Not only very key, but very timely to get it done in short order.
Yes, yes. We had some significant short deadlines for BCAG at the beginning of the month, and we were able to make those deadlines. So thank you for acknowledging and recognizing that. That was a heavy lift for our engineering department.
Certainly was.
Thank you.
Thanks.
One quick, excuse me, one quick item I wanted to add too is, I just saw a presentation yesterday, and some of you might be aware the Rotary Club is doing a lighting project on the Green Bridge. And that's mostly for exterior, but the latest rendition I just saw yesterday, and I'll have to get you a copy of it, actually puts white lighting on the bridge for pedestrians, which isn't there now, which doesn't exist. So it was a thought pattern I didn't even think about, but it also provides pedestrian improvement safety just on the bridge, because the bridge is going to be the path. I mean, it's not going to go away, and it's the safest place for pedestrians and bicycles to ride. So just another part of the process. So I think we've kind of given direction, the concerns certainly on Washington, what things can be mitigated in that process, as Councilman Riggs mentioned. And then, of course, Linden Avenue is really about a block or 2 blocks long. It's a mess. I mean, and it also ties into our high school. That's the way the kids go and come from school. So it certainly is a priority project to my thinking. So, any else comments before we move on to the next? Councilman Weber.
Thank you. So let me wrap my head around this Washington project. Am I missing something here? But this proposal for potentially looking at bike lanes has the appearance, at least, that you're trying to make it more accessible for people with the bicycles, but then also make it more readily available for large commercial trucks to drive down? Is that?
No, the plan is making the connectivity for mode shift. Bicycles, pedestrians, families with strollers have a safe way to start at Grand Avenue, come down the hill, transition through the roundabout, make their way down to Washington. Yes, that's a long walk with a stroller, but the potential to have a safe passage down through the Washington corridor to the 162 where shopping, the bus hub is. It gives us connectivity to the city amenities and to transportation.
Wheelchair
Okay.
access.
So what's wrong with the sidewalks?
Sidewalks are narrow, and we do have an easement up there which we would be taking
I
advantage of
understand,
the
but there's two
easement.
sidewalks on the other side of the road, though. There's
On
one
the,
one side,
well,
so-
there's
You know,
issues there.
it's not, I think it's gonna be, I think that's a really, really tough argument to make, that there's a safety issue there when there's actually two functioning, working sidewalks. Now, to Vice Mayor Smith's point about a bike lane down Table Mountain, I recall that we were told there was gonna be some sort of safe barrier installed, and then it wasn't. And then they just repaved the road, and now it's just a road.
Sure.
So with that being said, I agree with that completely, because there's no safe measure for a bicycle to go down there, although there is a wide sidewalk. However, over on Washington, where it's so narrow, this seems like this is extremely redundant to even think about doing this, because we got two sidewalks there.
Well, I'd like to speak to the two sidewalks. On the east side of Washington, you have all your overhead electrical, telephone, you have all the overhead utilities. Those poles do take a considerable part of that sidewalk. So there's potential issues. There's room there's things that we need to work with the utility poles there. There's a little bit of access there. And again, there's the park strip there that's part of the city easement, and that's where we'd be taking advantage to try to make that area a little bit wider.
And I hear that, but I what I'm trying to say is I think to like hang the importance of this on like safety doesn't quite meet the criteria of safety, considering there's already sidewalks there. And even if the sidewalk has impediments by whatever, I mean, I have frequented those sidewalks quite often myself, and guess what? They function perfectly. to walk on.
There's a big shift right now for trying to reduce, and Yvonne could probably, I'll screw this up, but he'll fix it. Reduce the miles traveled, and that's where some of the funding is coming from. Obviously, there's some safety components, but the bike lane component is significant if we can get people to use more different modes of transportation. So the bike lane, obviously, there's no bike accessibility on Washington right now. So that would be I think the key driver here, to want to provide that accessibility from the Montgomery roundabout to 162. But then ultimately, it's obviously like we were going down a grind and replace path, and it would be exactly the way it looks right now, except it would be a new street. This would be more complete modes of transportation. It would include the bike.
So with the push to reduce greenhouse gases, that sounds like that's a push of an agenda on people that may not want it.
It's, you know what?
If they think that if there's a push, a political push to put in bike paths to reduce greenhouse gases.
There is a push, and you're absolutely right, and that's from the administration, from the California State Transportation Agency, to reduce greenhouse gases, to reduce vehicle miles traveled, to improve air quality, to an effort for complete streets for local agencies and Caltrans. Yeah.
So in order to do that, the idea is make it more difficult on the constituents that live there? Because that's the result.
We don't know that. There may be a solution to mitigate those impacts. It could be a multi-use path on one site. I don't know. And that's why I invited my friends at Butte County Public Health, who are access experts, who will come and just do a walk audit and just check it out and offer up some ideas for council to consider. Maybe there's an appetite, maybe not. Maybe the homeowners want it, maybe they don't. I don't know. But before BCAG invests its limited resources, is this doable or not? I don't know. But it's worth exploring, because you'd be defining a major north-south connection for this region, because you don't have a safe all the way through. And all I'm saying is it will compete well for federal and state funds.
Safe on Table Mountain, I would agree with, not there.
And Washington, all the way
I would
through.
not agree with that, because you already have the sidewalks on either side. Forgive me for, I'm not trying to be confrontational,
Right,
I'm just
no, no.
disagreeing.
I get it, and,
You know.
and I'm a cyclist, and you're encouraged not to ride right next where people may be walking or pushing a stroller or like that. Bikes would be encouraged to take the road, and if there's a truck coming from behind you, you know, it's a no-win situation.
So in other words, back to my original point when you were at the podium there, so somebody has to lose in order for somebody to win.
Can I interrupt real quick? Just real quick,
Yeah.
the idea of a multi-use path, and I've seen them in a lot of cities, they still allow off-street parking on one side of the road and use a path on the other side of the road. So both people could potentially win here. It's just a matter of we got to do the research, get the experts there, take a look at it and see if it'll work.
And this is the first step.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just initial step.
Right.
Yeah,
No, I get it,
nothing's
but
etched in stone.
even with that scenario, with all due respect, somebody has to lose in order for somebody to win.
You still have parking,
Yeah.
you still have a place for bikes to go.
Inadequate amount, though.
The
'cause it would-
solution may
it would cut it in
be,
half.
the solution may be pick another parallel route. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard with this wasn't when we first started this conversation, it wasn't the on-street parking wasn't an issue until we looked at the width of the road. And it was like, okay, so it's not like it's kind of the cards you're dealt right now. The road width is what it is. So we're trying to figure out, what's the best way to
Needs to
use that
change
road.
For improvement.
Yeah. Councilman, or Vice Mayor Smith is up next.
Took the words right out of my mouth, Ron, because that was partly what I was gonna make, is that without really being able to look into it, I mean, there may be some real creative solutions. Even with our ordinance right now, most people aren't aware of this. If you're a cyclist, in Oroville, it's against the law to ride your bicycle on a sidewalk.
Wow.
In fact, you're gonna have to be real creative when you come off the Green Bridge because there's no access right there. You have to ride for a short distance on the side. I actually get off and I didn't know that until I started looking into this. I went, oh my gosh. And here I am, Vice Mayor Smith riding his bicycle on the sidewalk, and there's OPD, there's Chief LaGrone writing me up. That looked really good. So, but I actually dismount my bike and I push it on the sidewalk. I do and on the bridge I ride it. But so there's lots of little nuances and issues that need to be resolved here. But my reaction when I initially looked at this is very much like Councilman Weber's. It's like, oh my gosh, that's a challenge. But I think we need to tackle it, and I'm sure there's a solution.
Okay. I just want to add, too, that one of the other problems we're having today is not just bicycles and pedestrians, but all these new electric scooters and whatnot. I mean, they're just going all over the place, and we need to confine them to something safe. I'm not sure if that path is, but I would look forward to some of the health department's recommendations for this because, I mean, every time I go out, I turn around and see these, and they're really going fast, and they don't even pay attention to the traffic. So we got to have somewhere for this folks to go. I also think about the overcrossing over the railroad. That only has pedestrian on one side. Kind of interesting when that was built, and that wasn't built that long ago. It only has pedestrian surface on one side. The other side has none. So we're not very pedestrian friendly, and we need to make something more pedestrian friendly along that way. Were someone else up next, or did I?
Yes, it's time for, I know change is hard, and I know, and I understand what Councilman Weber is saying, especially when you're fighting for your district and your constituents are really not amenable to that kind of change. But at the end of the day, change is inevitable, and I would venture to say in the words of a wise man who once told me, Councilwoman Janet, not everybody wins, not everybody loses, but at the end of the day, you all gain something. So I'm just gonna leave it right there.
Okay. Let's continue with the presentation unless we have a.
Can I say one tiny
Sure,
thing?
go ahead. I didn't see it.
So just since we're here talking about bikes and this whole thing. What? You're hungry? So am I. I haven't said anything. They were taking all the airspace. Okay. Just in looking into options and bikes, and I agree that I also like riding my bike. And it is, I have friends that ride bikes, and it's, in fact, a friend of mine was just talking about riding his bike, around town, and I was there with somebody else, and it's like, it's not safe, because it's just the access, it's just not. But, regarding the Washington area and bikes, and I'm not sure, this might moot still the funds if we can't find an amicable route to widen or give more access on Washington. Right there where Baldwin comes in and kind of deads into Washington. If there was a better way of the sidewalk to give us sloping down, access down from when you cross over the train bridge and just access right into Baldwin, that would be at least helpful so that somebody wouldn't have to ride their bike down Washington Avenue. That would give another safe route, at least another option. Because from Baldwin, you're in neighborhoods, it's a lot safer to ride as opposed to driving down. Because Washington, that area we're talking about, it is just, sometimes even driving down it, you kind of hold your breath because just everything's real tight, so.
Okay.
My 2 cents, that was it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is it? Just for clarification, you're talking about a route drops off of the bridge across the parking lot and get on Baldwin and then take Baldwin to Meyer Street?
Yeah.
And doing it that way. I just wanted to clarify what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's a thought. Okay. A lot of good discussion. Thank you. Next,
If I can, Mr. Mayor, just want to confirm direction. Is there direction to continue to look into what options there are for Washington and Linden for obviously eliminating some of the parking and come back with more input to the council?
Yes.
and I think
Yes.
Linden is such a substandard street, we have to do something. It's just
Right,
not
it's
acceptable.
antiquated.
But they both obviously involve some sort of parking. So
Right.
again, we're not committing to doing anything right now. We're committing to have
Right.
Right.
conversations
A discussion.
with property owners and seeing what kind
Okay.
of solutions can be found.
All right. Next slide, is that yours?
Yes, I think I got two. I just wanted to kind of touch bases and give the council a little bit of update on the Public Works striping program. So since we've acquired the striping machine, staff has been real busy. We got about 13 miles of striping done since we've taken ownership on the machine. It's early in development, but we're getting pretty close to a good plan of about a 4-year cycle of restriping everything throughout the city. With that in mind, as a caveat, all the stop sign bars, all the crosswalks, those are being touched up every year. They're getting repainted every year for schools and around the hospitals and all that type of critical infrastructure. So as a whole, we're looking at a 4-year cycle of striping, fog lines and yellows and bot dots and the rest, and legends is what our main focus will be with the striping machine. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update of that, and there's a longer term plan at foot for our striping machine that we're very grateful to get. So we're putting it to good use. And my last slide, next slide, please, is I just wanted to touch bases on some of the Rolls, Anderson and Rolls projects of what they're doing. So we're currently in development for the reconstruction, ADA curbs, compliance and paving for Georgia Pacific Way. We're in early design for Oro Dam Boulevard East, Washington to approximately Orange Avenue. Again, this is pavement reconstruction, ADA compliance corners, potentially bike lanes, curb and gutter, and sidewalks. There'll be very nice improvements there. And Norton Avenue as well. Montgomery Street to Bridge Street, improvements would include pavement reconstruction again, drainage improvements, potential road widening, on-street parking, gutter, and ADA ramp compliance. So that's where we're at with those pieces with Rolls Anderson. They were on the consent, so I just wanted to make sure you guys understood what projects we're actually working with them. And that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Very
Thank you.
thorough.
Thank you.
Looks forward to a lot of new improvements to the community.
Absolutely.
Thank
And again,
you.
this is something that we plan on having in the future during the budget process. So hopefully these discussions will take place in June, July in the future, so.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
So at this point, I'd like to pass the baton over to Mr. Cameron Knudsen. He is from Caltrans, and he's going to unpack the Caltrans side of the Highway 162
Councilor
project.
Wilbur, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, it was more of just a statement. Although I may disagree with that particular segment of everything that you just presented, I agree with everything else that you presented, and I wanted to say thank you for the hard work and dedication that you poured into this. I'm very excited because prior to you coming on board, this council approved a 3-tiered service plan as we discussed. And I'm really looking forward to rolling into next year and seeing that plan be implemented at, with Public Works and Tier 2 doing up to 200,000, and then beyond that with full curb gutter sidewalk AEA compliant ramps and all that. So I'm super excited. And I know more importantly than us on this dais being excited, it's our constituents are absolutely thrilled with the prospect of these roads getting in good shape. So though I may disagree with that particular Washington segment of the presentation, if it's the council will that they ultimately do something about that after the presentation has been done by whoever looks at it, then so be it. But man, good job. I'm super happy we hired you. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. I appreciate that.
Of course.
If I may add to that, and I appreciate those comments, and I just want to give kudos to council for the staff that you do have in place, and it's not by accident that my agency is here today and I invited Cameron to give you guys an update. And they were gracious enough to take on some of the elements of your Highway 162 project to alleviate the cost burden to the city. But you really do have great staff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Cameron.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you, Mayor, and City Council and staff. I'd like to echo what Yvonne's saying. Great staff, been new, and so they're coming on board, but learning quick and very strong, very strong. And so appreciate everything that they've done. Your previous staff has done a good job. So this project on 162 that the state has is a pavement preservation project. So we're going to go through, that's the project started, and that's what it is. We're going to grind 3/10 all the way through from the Feather River Bridge all the way up to Foothill, and replace that pavement. So it's it is a pavement preservation project for us. As part of that pavement preservation project, we are making ADA improvements throughout the whole corridor. We'll be replacing curb ramps, driveways in and out, and so as you guys run that through your mind, that's a lot of driveways, a lot of curb ramps. That there'll be ADA improvements. As part of the project, it didn't make much sense. So we've been working with the city since 2021, a little bit before. Originally, I tried to marry our projects together, but due to time constraints and funding cycles, we just couldn't do that. And so as we've been working together in partnership on that, we've taken on aspects that make sense. One early on was, it doesn't make sense for you guys to paint pretty striping and bicycle stuff on, and then a year later I come back and grind it all up and have to paint it again. So some of the things made a lot of sense for us to take on as part of our project. But other things, as Yvonne talked about, is some of the mid-block lighting that will be very helpful for assisting pedestrians to make it inviting for them, a place where they feel comfortable to travel that route. The bicycle improvements, bicycle lanes will be they'll be striping for bicycles and pedestrians. So a huge improvement on the corridor for that, to make that, take that on. There's a few sidewalk gap closures that the city, again, time constraints. You've heard a lot about that, and they've had to do things very quickly. So property acquisition, some of that didn't go well. Working with the railroad, some of that stuff takes a long time. So those aspects we've taken on as part of our project that just couldn't be accomplished in the time frame that the city had to deliver their project. And then the state, in partners with the city, with BCAG, we recognize the value of these projects and these dollars for the city. It is transformative. I'm not from here, but I've done a lot of work in this area for a lot of years. So I appreciate it and have been excited, and so is our district director, to be a part of that and to help that. So those are some of the aspects. We're going to do some drainage improvements but the large part of that is the pedestrian and bicycle, the multimodal change or the opportunity for that to be, and then the new pavement down 162. I was part of the project that just finished from Foothill to the casino. That was a project that I oversaw as a project manager. And what a great project. I drove through that for the first time a couple weeks ago. And that was awesome. It's good to see these things coming up. Mayor talked about State Route 70, so I'll just give you we've been working on that for a lot of years, a lot of years. And it's exciting to drive up here. I personally have been ran off the road on State Route 70. It was 2 lanes. Somebody got tired of waiting for whatever they had to wait for and thought they should pass. And there was a semi coming. Thankfully, I was watching my rearview mirror and noticed them coming, so I drove my truck into the ditch.
Yes, yeah.
And they were able to pass and get around us. But so it excites me to see the progress of State Route 70. The bridge, the new bridge is beautiful, and the paving down on the Yuba County side, that project is scheduled to finish in December, but largely will look finished probably by the end of October. So the striping, all the paving should be done largely by then. So
And the
punch
cone-
list stuff. So
The cone's gone.
yeah, largely they may pop in and out, but it should be pretty cleaned up and look, for everybody's purposes, look done. I think by the end of October is kind of where
I think
we're at.
the director made a nice comment that this is the first 4-lane roadway into Butte County.
To complete, yeah. They've been working on it since 1988. There was when the decision was made, and
Yeah.
the state has invested between Sacramento and Chico just over $1 billion
Yeah.
invested in that corridor to get, now 4 lanes all the way up to Chico. And what a huge deal is that for moving goods and services, getting people in and out.
And saving lives.
And saving lives.
Right.
And that's the big thing.
Yeah.
That's the
Big
big
deal.
thing, but it's a good thing. So those projects, it's exciting. I've been working not as long as Yvonne has on it and probably many others, but it's exciting for me to be a part and see these things getting done. So with that, I know everybody's tired and hungry and various
full
things, but
now.
if there's, oh, you've had your snacks, it's a little caffeine to wake up, but.
We're just warming up.
It's
a good one.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, construction, we're scheduled to start construction in the summer of 2025. So a couple years.
Okay.
We're just finishing the environmental phase, project report and environmental phase. And so we'll be moving into the design phase, putting out the plans and plans specifications, contract development, and then it'll go out to bid, probably on December of '24, sometime in there. And then the construction is scheduled to take place beginning in the early spring
There's a
of
listed
2025.
project cost here of $28 million. Is that real? Or-
Yes, that's real. So, and that's right now, so things could change, could get a little more expensive,
Absolutely.
could get a little cheaper. Not typically, but yeah, it's a little over 28 million right now is what our estimated cost is.
Yeah.
So it's big project. And it is gonna make things look good. I've been impressed. I've been, like I said, working up here in Butte County and City of Oroville for a lot of years. And so I've really enjoyed to see what the city is doing here, the development and beautification that's going on in the city. So it's really exciting. So any other questions?
We have Councilman Weber on the
Yes.
queue here.
Thank
Yeah.
you. So this project is supposed to go, you just said 2025, summer of 2025. Okay.
Yeah, that's when we'll be in construction.
All right, and I was super happy to hear that you just said from the Feather River Bridge up, because you know, as you guys are well aware, right there, right after the bridge, it is pretty tore up.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's rough right there, you know, and then all the way underneath the overpass. And there's sections all along up Oro Dam there that are pretty rough. So here's my question. From what I understand, we can't touch, Public Works can't touch that State Route 162. That's your guys', we can't do anything with it, right?
Right.
That's right.
But our citizens need something done prior to 2025 with those
Right.
rough areas. Can we get permission from you guys somehow, or where we could go in and send Public Works in there and fill in some of that stuff? Because we can't even touch it.
So there's a way for complaints to be put into the maintenance department and concerns. Your complaints? Suggestion, we have a suggestion box. There's online suggestion for maintenance, and then they can schedule some of those, you know, repairs to potholes, as I'm sure was what you're talking about. And they'll come out and assess that and make it, but it's gonna be Band-Aids right now, knowing that this project is
Band-Aids are better
coming.
than nothing.
But that's the avenue, and I can share that at a later time, or, you know, tomorrow or something with the city, that can be passed on to you guys. So your constituents, when they call and complain, you say, hey, here's the place to.
Turn.
Yeah, here's your concern, where you can voice your concern. And so.
I'm super excited about this project. I think it's going to be great. I really appreciate your guys' dedication to this, and our city staff, of course, carrying through with this. But man, I sure would like to put a little bit of a temporary Band-Aid on some of that just for the sake of our. You know, 'cause
Right.
I travel those roads. Everybody on this dais does. So you know.
Right, yeah. So I'll get that information and share
That'd be great.
that.
Thank you
and
very
so
much.
you know where to put those suggestions in, the suggestion box.
Did we have someone else on queue, or is it just gone?
It's gone.
It's gone, okay. A short question, do you happen to have off the top of your head, and I didn't ask this question before, but what kind of daily traffic counts are we having on Oro Dam?
I am not 100% positive what the traffic counts are. Yeah, I don't have that.
I've
on
heard
my-
it was around the 20 to 24,000 as a possibility.
That seems a little high, but it could be. It could be.
One of our problems is, if you look at incidents and traffic accidents, it's from the police department side, you pretty much see a solid line along between Beach and Feather River Boulevard, just because of high volumes and, you know, left-hand turn lanes and all those kind of things that happen.
Yeah.
So it's a safety thing here on that particular roadway for us.
Right.
Just to see the improvements made, and I know it's pretty high count. I mean, and just the accident, and most of the accidents are, you know, car-to-car conflict. I'm real excited to hear about something at Spencer Avenue, because that's actually had many fatalities. People walking across where there is no crosswalk, and for some reason, everybody feels they can walk across that street. When there's a stoplight over here and a stoplight over there, they want to go right in the middle, and it's a problem.
Unfortunately, the striping and things that we put on our roadways doesn't stop stupid. But we'll do our best.
Yeah, I understand.
People still get their choice, but
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to make improvements, and I think as we improve people's ability to travel, some people, as Yvonne pointed out, have to travel. They have to walk. They have to ride a bike. They have to ride the scooters. As we make that more accessible for those people, and maybe some people that want to do it. You know, some people get bored and want to go do something, ride down to the park, your beautiful park at the river. This is going to be an avenue for them to be able to do that, and with these improvements. So anyway, it's good things. Good things happening.
Cameron, thank you, sir. Any
You
other
bet.
questions?
Appreciate it.
All right.
You bet.
Well done, thank you. All right, anybody else?
We do have one comment, public comment on this
Sorry,
item.
please, comment card, come on up.
One from Susan Sears.
Oh. Hey, Susan.
Good evening. The map's gone now, but I believe there's only one residential area in that project,
What project are we talking about?
162.
162, okay.
It's called Fay Way. There are 27 households in there, and the only access they have to the world is Olive Highway. now that the hospital has sewed shut the temporary
Yeah.
thing, which I used, because I found that the difference between traffic on Olive Highway and Oro Dam was about 85-15. So I would go through their parking lot and get out onto Oro
Right.
Dam, and I was free. In 2017, we were all asked to leave at once because the dam was possibly going to fail. Even now, with no impending disasters, it is very, very difficult to get in or out at certain times. So I'm just wondering, what improvements, question for Caltrans, are you doing at Fayway?
Maybe Cameron can answer that question for you. Thank you.
There currently is.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
yeah. There it is. You got it.
Goes back.
Back on.
Yeah.
There currently is no plan to add a signal. I think that's what you're asking, if
Yeah,
we're going to put a signal.
Your survey crew was in error when they told me that. And I didn't believe it anyway, because when BCAC had a workshop 20 years ago, they said it's too close to Oro Dam, you can't do it.
Yeah, those survey guys get me in trouble all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
I guess I need to make the lines on the paper a little clearer for them. But anyway, no, there's currently not a plan to put a signal at Fayway. There's a myriad of reasons why, and we may be making some changes to that crosswalk as well that is at Fayway currently, because it comes right, I mean, there's, I don't know, 5 or 6 driveways right there that come in and out, and so it's another conflict point. So no signal, and probably likely changes to the crosswalk as well there. So we'll keep you posted.
Could I suggest something about not blocking the intersection?
Yeah, suggested
Just
away.
striping or,
So a keep clear zone in front of that intersection, is that a possibility?
Maybe we can, that's something we can look at as a project team. Sure, thank you. Good suggestion.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
See, solutions come about.
well, we are a very self-contained neighborhood that's about 70 years old, which
Oh,
isn't
yeah.
old as Oroville goes, but it's old. And I've lived there for more than half of that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
UPS and FedEx trucks come and go. They're not in anybody's way. They do their thing. Moving vans come and go, and sometimes they're there for 3 hours, and it doesn't interfere with anything. And I thought of all that when you were talking about Washington. How are people going to move in and out and receive packages? Just a thought.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, that's a tough.
Well, a lot of good discussion tonight.
Yeah.
We have at the end of our meeting, we always reopen it up for public communication here of non-agenda items. Do we have any cards?
We do not.
Okay. Council, future agenda items, any council comments?
Yes,
Go ahead.
Sean beat me to it.
Oh, go ahead, Councilman Weber.
No, she was actually motioning first. I just hit my, I hit my.
I would like to discuss on future agenda items, just researching what kind of funding we could possibly get to install new gas pumps at the airport, and potentially a new gas truck or tanker. I'm not sure what the terminology is on that, but
Yes, pumps at the airport.
Yeah.
I think that improvements to our airport is part of the whole beautification process of Oroville. We should start including the airport and out that way as well, so,
I agree with that. I'll second that.
thank you.
I'll third it.
I think there's some discussions going on I've heard before, but certainly it's going to be a great update, yeah. Any other council agenda items?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see your name.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
So, bear with me, I got a little bit of stuff I wrote down here. It's only 10 or 15 pages, so we'll be done quickly.
You have a PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah, I
for
got
it
a
too?
PowerPoint and, and then there's gonna be an arm wrestling contest. It's gonna be great. So, future agenda items, at the Oroville Community Development Coalition meeting that we host every month, Mr. Pyatt was there, and we had a presentation, and Vice Mayor Smith was there, and we had a presentation from a lady by the name of Wendy Porter regarding some training potential or training possibility of a training for like an awareness for on the heels of our businesses of kind of raising their concerns with the amount of things they have to deal with on a daily basis if they show up to work and there's somebody sleeping on their stoop or somebody's, trashed it or defecated on it or whatever, right? So we actually, at our previous, not this last month, but the month before, we had Sarah from the Y there. She came to the meeting and she said, hey, is there any kind of training that we could do that would help when we have a confrontation essentially with the person that we find on our stoop or some person that's kind of maybe whacked out on some sort of substance? Well, we put it out of the minutes. Wendy Porter read the minutes from our meeting and responded and said, hey, I'm already working and developing something at Butte College that at the request of the Chico Downtown Business Association because of their concerns dealing with the same thing. So Wendy said, hey, I would love to come and present about this. So we invited her. She came and presented. It was great. And it was basically centered around how to, and I'm using the word confront because it's not a confrontational thing, but I couldn't think of a better word. But how when you have a conflict or confrontation with individuals, how to de-escalate, how to process after the de-escalation, and how to interact with these people. So it's approximately a 4-hour training that they're working on. They haven't rolled it out quite yet. I think they're going to roll it out early November, I think. But I was hoping that we could get them to come here. And also, what I'm trying to get at here is that I would like to propose that the city fund it through our community promo account that we have. We've got it front loaded with $20,000. There's a cohort fee that we'd have to pay to Butte College in order for them to do it. But I would also like to incorporate a fentanyl awareness education presentation. Councilmember Goodson and Mayor Pittman and I we went to a fentanyl town hall symposium at the Southside Community Center, and there was a bunch of speakers there that spoke on fentanyl and fentanyl awareness and some of the statistics that surround overdoses and how they skyrocketed in the last couple of years. And there was one presentation that really stuck out in my mind, and that was from the young lady, Tori, I believe her name was, and from Butte County Behavioral Health, and it was fascinating. And I mean fascinating on how our children are getting these drugs in their hand, how they're leveraging social media apps, how they use emojis to speak to each other in languages, how they use Cash App and Zelle to transfer monies, how they use burner Google phone numbers so nobody could trace them. It was a fascinating presentation, so I would like to have her come and give that presentation. I've already asked our own Ron Belzer, because he does a wonderful drug identification and awareness presentation that I've sat through a couple times. It's excellent. I've asked him if he would come. And then lastly, I would like to have Chief Legrone and his lieutenants come, and Chief Legrone is super down to do this, but come and do here, where's my notes at here? An effective communication with law enforcement tips and tools class, and basically it'd be a training on how we as the citizens could be more equipped with knowing how to do a citizen's arrest, how to chronicle when you see a crime going down in front of you, how to record it, how to report it, what rights you have as citizens, how to file. There's a form, many of you may not know about, that you guys can file with the police department. And then in that form, it's basically a no trespassing form. And then that gives the police permission to vacate whoever might be on your property permanently, get them out of here, because it'll be on file. And so when the police see it, so I want to propose that we actually fund this. And then I've already talked with Sarah at both the Y, and I've talked to Cindy Danaluke over at the State Theater. Vice Mayor Smith and I have talked about this. Councilmember Tracy Johnstone and I have talked about this. So the three of us, we're all working on this together. And depending on the type of training it might be, we don't know quite yet what the piece from Butte College is going to be, if it's going to be an interactive training or if it could be something simply done from a stage. So we don't know what venue, but both the State Theater and the Oroville Convention Center are super down to hosting. So I want to put it forward that we would consider at the council that we would fund this, that we would pay for the cohort training, that we would actually also provide a lunch to keep them there, because we're talking about a multiple hour event to train and give our citizenry and our business owners proper tools to fight some of these things while we also work on fighting them at this level for them.
Okay.
You have anything to say about that?
Well, I think staff has a lot to work with and get back with something. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and then my second thing I would like to propose as a future agenda item, and this is Councilmember Thompson and I were working on this, is actually, this is another thing that was birthed from conversations that we were having with, also with Chief Legrone, is to fund like a public service announcement campaign where we start like shooting public service announcement commercials so we could pump them out on YouTube, on TV, on social media, and they would be centered around drug awareness or youth violence in the community, or things like focusing on community involvement, community responsibility. And then that could be potentially shot with, of course, with our chief, and then maybe with this council right here, we can make public service announcements. And so I would like to look into funding that as well. And I know that Chief Legrone actually has already been looking into this quite extensively, so I'll allow him to speak on that later. But that's something else Councilmember Thompson and I were working on as well. So I'd like to look into that.
Okay. Anybody else? Councilman Goodson's on the queue.
Yes, thank you so much for mentioning the epidemic that is happening in Butte County with the fentanyl. There is the Oroville Southside Community Improvement Association, spearheaded by Pastor Kevin Thompson, did put on an extremely well-attended event with all the speakers that Councilman Weber made reference to at the Southside Community Center. And it was just part one of several phases. The next series of that type of event, the OSCIA and the NAACP will be hosting an Operation Live on Fentanyl event, part 2, on Saturday, September the 30th, from 11 to 2 p.m. It's going to be at the Martin Luther King Park. It's another opportunity for the community to come together and hear from Butte County Public Health, AGES. Bill Legrone will be one of the speakers, and Pastor Bill Spear will be speaking in regards to Jordan's Crossing, what's available when a person is seeking help or a family member needs information for residential and rehab facilities. So this is, and it's free barbecue as well. The event is from 11 to 2, and from 11 to 12, we have procured, which one? Approximately 2,500 Narcan and test strips too. So we will be, we've divided up the community, and we will be going out and distributing those Narcan and the test strips for those that know a family member or know of a friend, and you never know when you might have to use that. So just wanted to let you know that. Saturday, September 30th, from 11 to 2 at the Martin Luther King Park. Come hungry, and you will become educationally in tune in what is going on with this epidemic in our community.
Excellent. Thank you. Good information. Anybody else? Looking around the room, we have the correspondence received, and then next item is adjourn the meeting. You ready? Hungry, huh? The meeting will be adjourned to the next regular meeting at Oroville City Council, be held October 3rd, 2023 at 4 p.m. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Great meeting.